The 10-Minute Talent Rant is live. I'm James Hornick, joined by Jeff Smith, and we are on the clock. The 10-Minute Talent Rant is our ongoing series. You break down things that are broken in the talent acquisition and hiring space, maybe even pitch a solution or two. Before we dig in, all of our content can be found at talentinsights.hireall.com. This week's topic, are you ready, Jeff?
I am, and I will say the people get collared shirt, Jeff, so it will come with increased visual credibility.
Is this a first? I think this might be the first time you've dressed up a little bit.
A little. I mean, I still look like a savage yeti, but
yeah. That's the end joke. I only wear collared shirts in this show to make up for the fact that you're usually
homeless.
Not there. Anyways, yeah. Episode 103, compensation is a train wreck. So the quick intro to this, over the holidays, I wanted to post about this, but I realized doing so might actually get us in trouble. Jeff and I, both being upstanding citizens of the great state of Illinois, land of Lincoln, January 1st realized we had this new law go into effect around pay transparency. And it's one of those ones, I actually thought this was a law already. Anyways.
To be honest, I did too.
Yeah. So because Colorado has this, a bunch of other states already do. I thought we did, but we didn't, but now we do. Salary ranges and benefits have to be in every job posting. Or job ad, I should say. So whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's on your website and you're in Illinois, you're advertising Illinois, it has to be on there. So I say gotten us into trouble because we realized our website, we always put job salary range on our website, but we realized we didn't even have the API written to pull benefits info to our site. We didn't even think of that. That was kind of the gotcha. So I think that's done. I don't know. Anyways, if you're in Illinois, side note, your job ads now you need to have both salary comp information and benefits, or you're probably going to jail.
Yeah, audit it for sure. It opened up a larger discussion. We had this internal kind of brainstorming about just in general how much of a mess compensation banding is right now. Mm-hmm. It's always been hard, but the in-joke about salary ranges is employers only see the bottom number of that range and the candidates only see the top number. And it doesn't really make anything more clear. So we want to dive into like the last few years and like little tranches and see how we got here. So James, start us off.
Yeah. So rewinding in time, the post-financial crisis, from the time everything started to rebound up until about 2020, good times. It's a great decade.
It was a great decade.
Everyone's salaries inched higher. Every company did better. Companies just baked it into the cost of doing business, but everything was fine. And there was also the stability. It's just like it was the best of times. Things went on and on year after year, uninterrupted. Technology and digital was a boom time. It was when venture capital firms and IPOs just kind of went through the roof. People in those industries saw the most gains. Really, everybody did. And I think to mention, this is kind of starting this discussion off, that's also when people get used to that kind of linear salary increase. That also provides lifestyle inflation. People start spending more. They get accustomed. So it becomes kind of self-fulfilling that people just kind of expect that salaries should always go up because for 10 years, that's all they've seen.
And for you younger folks, the lines were correlated. Inflation wasn't completely out of whack with salaries. Like they both kind of stayed, to your point, linear.
Yeah.
Then we had the COVID crash, and people fell, generally speaking, into a couple buckets. They either realized that, really quickly that their livelihood was in jeopardy, could disappear, and learned to either hustle at what they were doing or develop something on the side to side hustle, or they just hung on like grim death and think they're lucky stars that they were gainfully employed. For companies, it was the first time in a while where they had a golden opportunity to cut cost and gain negotiating power with their group of employees. I don't think any company was thinking about it advantageously at that particular moment in time. It just so happened that, we need to cut costs because the world might be ending.
Yeah.
The side hustle thing, however, was the first time where workers were like, shit, like I might be able to do a couple of things at once, which probably had a heavy influence on the next my coined term here, micro era. I invented that, by the way.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah, the 2021-2022 boom, aka the Great Resignation, my most hated moniker ever.
The worst.
That was used every day by every influencer on LinkedIn for a year and a half.
Worst.
Again, reviewing, salaries skyrocketed once again. So after the decade-long increase and the crash, then it got really out of control. Shouldn't say out of control. For workers, it was a great thing, but it was a pretty insane kind of increase. Remote work flourished for the same reason. Every company learned how to do it because they had to, but then to hire anybody, you had to kind of like allow remote work.
Yep.
And companies, they paid whatever it took to hire. It was a great time for us. Over the long haul, turns out to be kind of fool's gold. But the one thing I want to kind of point out here, the one thing I think gets missed a lot in the discussion is worker shortages and rising costs drove a lot of offshoring. So long story short, the cost of doing the same business that you did in 2019 just skyrocketed. Offshoring became a big thing in a big way really fast.
Yeah. And I don't think people knew it. When it was happening, it was kind of happening in the undercurrents of the company. Next era was, maybe late 23 into all of last year was the free money is over era, essentially.
Yeah.
So workers still, by and large, were bucketed into two groups, essentially. But I made it through layoffs and I'm never leaving because I have a great big inflated salary from the Great Resignation. And it's going to take, an act of God to get me to move. Or number two, I got let go and I'll take anything.
That's what we call a wide market. People who expect a ton of money to leave or people who expect not very much by comparison, all in one labor market.
And side note, there is a corollary to the real estate market. Anyone, me included, anyone who got a 3 or sub 3% mortgage rate back in the day, 3 years ago, I'm not moving.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Exact same thing. So meanwhile, companies got another opportunity to cut costs and headcount, which kind of resulted in that second bucket.
Yeah. So it left us with, like I said, two groups, those who need a lot of money to move and those who don't.
Yep. So base level, we have this large group of handcuffed workers who can't move because of that compensation, even if they wanted to. So they're disenchanted with their jobs. It's like, well, I'm not moving because I make a lot of money. And then there's this second larger group that, will take the same work for way. And we don't have a percentage. I'm just going to enforce way less than group one. And it's resulting in these salary bands that y'all are seeing that say digital product manager, 100K to 220K.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing that gets lost. It's not just like companies like throwing out a bullshit salary range. It's because they see people in the market that are at the both ends extremes of that range.
And we mentioned it at the beginning. We know which number the companies look at, lower end, and we know which number the candidates look at, higher end. We have a director here. We brought this to the people at Hirewell. Director here, nameless, to guard her innocence. She doesn't lead with this stuff in her messaging. She always asks what the individual is targeting. Then she shares, the ranges of what she thinks it'll take to get a deal done. And when we say a deal done, we want to make sure that it is market appropriate. The candidate's going to be excited. The company's going to be excited. Okay. No malintent here. The point is, again, when you share a range, candidates hear the high number. Conversely, we see requests from candidates all the time now where we know that person is insanely under market, 40, 50 points under market. Like, how are we supposed to navigate this?
Yeah. And I think one of the key things here is companies really miss this nuance. They talk to the latter group, or they look at aggregate salary data, which combines all this together. So they talk to the less expensive people, or they look at salary data, which kind of combines all these things. And they don't understand why, quote unquote, market rates don't entice happily employed people to leave their jobs.
Yep. We can go to market and get anyone we want. Well, okay. You just said that you don't want anyone from bucket 2. So that data is meaningless to me. Anyway, gets us back to the real disruptor. It's not AI or H-1B visas as, the media and all the talking heads want you to believe. It's offshoring to Latin America. Fact.
Eastern Europe, India, all those places.
India. Companies are more comfortable with all of this now. We're a global economy for the first time. They're all interconnected. And the workers are really good too. They're trained. So 5 to 6 years ago, we started to get a lot of business from European and APAC firms who needed to build US entities. And now in the past 3 years or so, 2.5 years, it's now US-based companies who are hiring US-based salespeople and pushing everything else offshore.
Yeah, and this is the downside of remote work. We allow this to happen inadvertently by making companies more comfortable with doing it. I mean, I got a couple examples. There's an organization, a woman I know runs a company called Cradle, which actually they do a lot of offshoring from Africa, where there's very highly educated population. The job market there isn't great. I have 3 different friends who have used her service. It's excellent. Like these are like SDRs or admins who do marketing, that type of stuff. So kind of more, lower end type of work. But it's just like a fraction of what it is here for the same quality work.
Yep.
Similarly, I've got another friend who owns an RPO firm, does kind of some stuff similar to what we do. Most of his recruiters are in Latin America. He pays them half as much as he pays his US-based sales force, and straight up says to me, like, they're just as good or better. Like, these are people who used to work at Google or Meta or whatever before. Like, they know what they're doing. And I even said, friend of the show, in comments when I was talking about this the other day, Erin Riska, she pointed out that, like, if you survey 10 recruiters out there who work for a tech company with, fewer than 250 employees, ask them where they hired their software engineers or where most recent hires sit, 9 out of 10 are going to say Latin America or Eastern Europe. 100%. Like, it's a real thing. Yeah.
Fact. All right. What are our takeaways?
Takeaways. So here's where we're headed. Companies are going to decide what they need here and what they need to offshore. It's as simple as that. Offshoring is happening at an increasing rate, whether you like it or not, and it's having a direct impact on the compensation ranges here.
Yeah, it's not going to stop. So buckle up and get used to it. Because of these big disparities, companies are going to have to shell out what they may perceive as overpaying for the key roles in the US. But keep in mind, a lot of what happened, during the Great Resignation kind of already got us to the point of what those numbers should look like. So I don't think anybody should be expecting another bump anytime soon.
Yeah. Now, for the worker side of this, if you're a US-based worker, you're going to have to look at a few things like higher skill roles, things that have to be done strategically, have a lot of strategy involved, or stuff that has to be local. There are positions, especially when you get outside of the Office Dork circles, there are lots of things that have to be local, and that's where you're going to have more protection against wages getting decreased.
Yeah, you can't build a house remotely. That'll never change. Look, we don't know how this is going to unfold, but one thing's for sure, as you and I are always ready to throw the bag of popcorn in the microwave and fire it up. So see what happens.
We are short on clock. That's a wrap for this week. Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Talent Rant, part of the Talent Insights series, which is always available for replay on talentinsights.hirewall.com, as YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Jeff, thanks again as always. Everyone out there, we will see you soon.